Hello and welcome to The Last Word on Spurs. Thank you so much for joining us. If you're listening to the show for the first time, you can find us on iTunes, Spotify and Audio Boom, or across a range of different audio platforms. We're of course on Twitter at Last Word on Spurs. We're on Facebook and Instagram too. And we're also delighted to also be live on YouTube. Joining me, I've got my co-host for this show, Transfer Season. He's always back during Transfer Season. It's Jamie Brown over at the Daily Hotspur. Jay, how are you?
Yeah, very good, thank you, Ricky. And yes, of course, as a Spurs fan, I'm always I'm really ready for some big Spurs news in the transfer market. They seem to be making us wait again, the club. So let's see what Fabrizio has to say. So
Absolutely. Delighted once again to be joined by the wonderful Fabrizio Romano. Fabrizio, lovely to have you back again with us. How are you, firstly?
Hey guys, super pleasure to be together. I'm good, thank you. Happy New Year to all of you, and super happy to talk Tottenham.
Fantastic, Fab. Lovely to have you back on. I'm going to hand over to Jay to start this January transfer window update.
Yeah, so obviously the big player being linked at the moment with Spurs is Adama Traore. There's been lots of links recently about him potentially coming to Spurs. I think you yourself in the past have said that Fabio Paratici is a big fan of the winger. So it'd be interesting to get your take on how likely this transfer is and kind of what sort of fee it would take to bring him to Spurs this month.
Yes, first of all, what is sure is that Fabio Paratici loves this player. So he's always been following this boy since he was Juventus director. He was thinking of Adama Traore for Juventus many times. Also last summer for Tottenham, they were thinking of Adama Traore. Of course, in that case was for Nuno to play with wingers, and Nuno, of course, knows the player so well. But now with Antonio Conte also playing 3-5-2, the situation is not so different because they're looking for this kind of player, for an offensive winger with different skills. Antonio Conte was doing an incredible job at Inter with Achraf Hakimi, for example. So, of course, Adama is an offensive player, is less seen as right back, as more as winger. But what we can say is that for Tottenham, in January, his name is still in the list. So Adama Traore is 100% in Tottenham list. It doesn't mean that he's joining because the negotiation is not easy. Bruno Lage, Wolves manager, is pushing to keep the player at the club. So from what I'm told, he's trying to also speak with the club and hope to keep the player at the club in January. It's not going to be super easy for Tottenham also because of the fee. For sure, there is interest on Tottenham side to do some swap deal. This is my feeling. They will try in January to do some swap deal around some negotiation for some trade because this is Fabio Paratici's style and this is what they're looking for. But it's not easy with Adama Traore because he's a key player for Wolverhampton, and this is why, as of now, the negotiation is not so easy, but it's something that Tottenham are thinking to do.
Can I ask you, Fab, just follow up on what you just said there about a swap deal. Does that potentially maybe involve Matt Doherty heading back to Wolves?
This is a possibility, yes. It's not the only swap deal I see for Tottenham, to be honest. So this could be one of the cases, but not the only one. Yes, for Doherty, there is the opportunity to leave the club in January. Yes, so it's one of the names that I expect to maybe leave Tottenham this window. So let's see. Yes, Wolves have an interest to bring him back, but at the moment, he's not at advanced stages with Adama included. This is why it's not super easy. Also about the value of the players.
Okay, no problem at all, Fab. Thank you for that update. Right, well, listen, I mean, since you've been with us here, you know, we've been loving the Conte train. We've been riding the wave. I know you love the Italian connection yourself and having Paratici and Conte together at Tottenham. He's made a great start at Spurs, to be fair. You look at Spurs now, just 2 points off the current top four with 2 games in hand as well. I mean, I think it's fair to say that Chelsea defeat in the week really did hit us all quite hard. Of course, there is a second leg to turn that around. But can we firstly ask you, because we saw after the game, Conte looking quite subdued and almost warning, a patience warning to Spurs that this is going to be quite a still heavy rebuild. Is he happy at the football club? And do you feel he will be backed by the board this coming January and upcoming summer window?
Antonio Conte will only be happy one day when he wins something. So you will never see Antonio Conte happy at Tottenham if he's not winning a title and winning a trophy. This is 100% like this. And it's part of Antonio Conte history. So in England, you maybe remember how was the relationship with Chelsea board because they were not signing the players he wanted at some point. With Inter, has been the same. With Inter, he won the league. But for 2 years, he was every single interview saying that he wanted something different. He wanted something new. He wanted something else. So this is Antonio Conte. His mission is to win. And to win, it also means to be like a hammer every single day, pushing to have new players, new signings to improve the team. So if you see Antonio after the games doing this kind of interviews and asking for players, asking for signings, it's because he wants to bring something to the team and to show we need to win. We need to think that we are not ready enough to win. We need something else. We need something new. So if you ask me, Antonio is happy with Tottenham atmosphere? The answer is yes. He's super happy with Fabio Paratici, with the players, with the attitude of the players, because you mentioned the table in Premier League is very good. If we think how the season started for Tottenham, was really complicated to be in the top 4, and now it seems to be completely different life. So Antonio is super happy with the approach of main part of the players. He's super happy with his relationship with Fabio Paratici and with Daniel Levy. He's super happy with the training ground. He's in love with the training ground, how it can work for Tottenham. It is something really new to him, because in Italy we are a good level, but not at this kind of level. So he's super happy with everything with Tottenham. Now it's time to improve with new signings. It's time to improve with the strategy on new contracts. That is something very important for Antonio, because when he mentions Lloris, for example, it's because he wants to be happy and he wants to feel the happiness into the dressing room, also with the key players already in the club. So this is why the process is long. But if Antonio is speaking like this, it's because his mission is to win. And so he's happy, yes, but he always wants more.
One big thing he spoke about after the Chelsea game was kind of how difficult it is to get deals done in January and kind of fixing the squads. So it'll be interesting to get your take on kind of whether you see much activity happening at Spurs this summer, this month, in terms of incomings and outgoings. Are you expecting Spurs to be fairly busy?
I expect Spurs to try to be very easy, because this is also the style of Fabio Paratici, to try many different things and see at the end which one are working. So this will be the style again. To be honest, I think that they will go for a centre-back. This is the feeling I have. So centre-back is the real priority. And then to see what happens in the other positions, as we said, for Adama, but also for other players, to see how the opportunities will arrive on the market. Yes, the point is that in January is not easy, because to adapt to Antonio Conte football, you come from Italy, so maybe you already know how it works with Antonio, his system, his ideas, or directly from Premier League, because you know everything about the league, the opponents, and many other things. So I don't see, for example, Tottenham doing some business as they did for Bryan Hill in the summer. That is very good talent, and so in my opinion, it's still a very smart signing for the future. But now in January, you need something different. You don't have any preseason. You need an impact with a manager like Antonio Conte, who is always working 24 hours per day, trying to build something with his own ideas. So you need something ready, and this is what they will try to do. Centre-back is a priority, and then we will see in the other position what they will be able to do.
Just to follow up for that, Fab, you mentioned centre-back being a priority. You know, from our understanding, we know that there's an interest over maybe a right wing back. You say centre-back there, maybe a left-sided centre-back, and also potentially Conte wanting a central midfielder. Can you categorically tell us the specific positions that Conte would like to fill this January transfer window?
These 3 positions for sure. So with the priority of centre-back, but also on the right wing, and then to see what happens on the midfield. What kind of midfielder? It depends on also how many players can leave Tottenham. So let's see what happens with Ndombele. We'll see what happens also with Dele Alli situation, because Dele Alli, I'm not 100% sure yet that he's going to finish the season as Tottenham player. Maybe I will have some opportunity on the market. So it's an open situation, but centre-back priority, right winger is a possibility, and midfielder a possibility too. Yes.
Now, one thing, a good friend of the show, Alistair Gold, he was mentioning that Spurs probably won't have a great deal of money to spend this month. Do you think Spurs are going to be heavily reliant on incomings by having to sell players? Is that going to be a big thing, Spurs getting players out the door to bring new ones in?
No, this is so important. To see how many signings is important to understand how many players will leave, because it's very, very important, not just for Tottenham. I think it's in general for top clubs. Now in the market, you need to sell players. It's not like 5, 4, 3 years ago when the situation before COVID was different. Now you need to sell players, and this is what Tottenham want to do, what Tottenham are planning to do. So Fabio Paratici is trying for Ndombele, is trying for the situation of Dele Alli to find maybe some interesting swap deal. So I will keep an eye on this one. Not on permanent, but I guess on loan move could be a possibility. Let's see, because as I say, this kind of market with trades, with swap deals, with creativity market needs time. You can't do it in the first week, and so nothing is happening in the first week. It's going to take some days. At the end of the window, you will have many opportunities, because, for example, there are clubs who need to sell players, like Barcelona, for example, but many others too, that they will be forced to sell the players, maybe with a different approach, different price, or maybe to accept some loan deal. This is why waiting in January sometimes is a smart strategy. And Fabio Paratici always did like this also to Juventus in January. At the same point, we have to see how many players will leave, because you know better than me the salaries of Tottenham players. This is the problem for players like Ndombele. I see rumors Ndombele to Roma. For the salary he has, is absolutely impossible. It's absolutely impossible. So it's about the salaries.
Fab, you mentioned a couple of days ago that Spurs are in talks with Hugo Lloris and are confident to extend his contract until June 2023 with one more season approved by Antonio Conte. Can you tell us if those talks have progressed? Because we've seen reports that apparently Rennes are showing interest in the Frenchman. Any further progression on Hugo Lloris's contract?
It's true that there is interest from France, Rennes not only, but it's also true that Hugo Lloris is super happy at Tottenham, of course. He's more than a key player for Tottenham. And I'm told that talks are going well. It's not done yet, but are going well. I can also say that from what I heard, Hugo Lloris wants a bit more than only one season contract. So maybe they can include an option or maybe go directly with a 2 seasons contract. Let's see what happens. Also because Antonio Conte is key into this kind of decisions, also for a new contract. And he wants Lloris to stay. He was so clear in public, but he always wants this kind of players, with experience, very important in the dressing room, still a great goalkeeper. So this is why I expect Tottenham to push in the coming weeks for Lloris to extend the contract. Talks have started, and I'm sure that maybe they will need to change the structure, so maybe include an option or go with a 2-year deal, but they will continue to negotiate with Hugo Lloris.
Another player who was potentially in talks of a new contract was Harry Kane as well. Is there any kind of update on whether Harry Kane might sign a new contract and what the details of that contract might be?
No, it's not imminent yet. From what I heard, it's something that they started to discuss, but was really early stages. Immediately after the summer, after Harry Kane made his decision to stay, after Daniel Levy was saying no to every single proposal from Manchester City. So in September, they had some conversation with the agent of Harry Kane, and the feeling was, we want you to stay and to sign a new deal and to be part of the face of Tottenham new project also, then with Antonio Conte. Then at the moment it's not imminent or it's not close to be agreed a new deal, but I'm sure that something will be discussed from Tottenham side. Why? Because now the feeling I have, talking with people close to the club and not only, is that Harry Kane is really, really happy with Antonio Conte revolution at Tottenham. When you have a manager like Antonio, it's not just on the pitch. What we see on the pitch is every single weekend, so you know better than me, but also into the dressing room. Something has changed. When you see Antonio Conte fighting to bring a different mentality, this is exactly what Harry Kane wanted. What Harry Kane wanted last summer. It's not just about Champions League football or winning titles, and of course every single top player is hoping to do that, and so it's fair to understand what Harry Kane wanted and why Harry Kane wanted to join Manchester City. But now the feeling into Tottenham dressing room, and same from the board and same for the manager, is they are experiencing something different. They feel that they can win. They can fight to win. They can compete, and they can be back at top European football. And so this is why I have the feeling that the contract situation in 2022, not now, but maybe in the coming months, could be an interesting topic for Tottenham.
Well, Fab, you mentioned about Lloris. Just want to quickly ask you about Pierluigi Gollini. There's been reports that Spurs are not convinced by the shot stopper's fitness. Do you expect him to return to Atalanta? Spurs obviously are yet to trigger his amount of games played to offer him a permanent contract.
Yes, first of all, I was checking this news because I saw also these reports about his fitness, and I'm told that it's not like this, to be honest. I'm told that Pierluigi is super appreciated into the dressing room. Teammates love him, so he has a fantastic relationship with teammates. And sometimes you can see also on social media how the relationship is very good with many teammates. He's a good goalkeeper. He did great in Italy with Atalanta for many, many seasons. At the moment, it's not a priority for Tottenham. This is the truth. So this is not a priority because Conte wants Hugo to stay. Also, Antonio Conte has never been a manager ready to give a lot of time, game time to second goalkeepers. For example, at Inter, he had a second goalkeeper like Radu, and he was never playing him, never. Only after they won the league for 2 games. Stop. Then he never played him. So also when Andranovic had some problems, always with the first goalkeeper. So my expectation is for Tottenham not to have the priority to sign Gollini. They're happy with his attitude. They're happy with the goalkeeper he is, but at the moment it's not the priority to spend money on him. So I still see this one as something that maybe could change in the coming months, because maybe Gollini will change the situation. Never say never in football. But as of now, it's not a priority, and there are Italian clubs interested in him, already working on him as potential new signing for next summer. So let's see what happens.
Do you think that Spurs could look to sign another goalkeeper? Of course, with Lloris, he is coming towards maybe the latter stages of his time at Spurs. And there's been reports of us been linking us with the likes of Dean Henderson at Man United, Sam Johnson at West Brom, and even Sami Handanovic was another name that was linked. Obviously, he'd be, certainly not one to replace Lloris. But is there a possibility that another goalkeeper might come to Spurs anytime soon?
In January, no. Talking about summer, I'm sure that they will talk about the budget. These will be key to understand how they want to spend the budget. Because as I told you, Lloris for Conte is a priority. And so when Conte has a priority, you have to go with Conte. If you don't support Conte, you're going to have big problems. So I'm sure that they will do everything they can do to find an agreement with Hugo Lloris and continue with him. So spending a lot of money on a second goalkeeper or to have a competition in a role where Antonio Conte is never giving competition because he prefers to go with a single goalkeeper and having a good backup as Gollini or as the next one they will sign. I don't see Tottenham spending 30 or 40 or 25 million on a goalkeeper in the summer if they will have different priorities. And my feeling is, yes, they have different priorities. Something in the midfield, new striker to be signed, to decide on the right wing. Let's see what happens with centre-backs. So they have some priorities. They maybe have to put some money on the new deal for Harry Kane. So it doesn't seem to be a priority right now. Before Conte, yes, because Nuno was not 100% convinced of Lloris as key player for the future. But with Conte, age of the players is not something important. It's how you perform, not the age. This is why I have the feeling that Lloris will be at the center of the project.
Okay, I'm conscious of time, Fab, so we're going to speed it up like the pace of Adama Traore.
Let's do it.
We'll try our best to. Okay, so we mentioned about right wing back being one of the areas Spurs want to look to bring somebody in. We've been linked with the likes of Tariq Lamptey, Filip Kostic, Manuel Lazzari. Are any of those players of interest to Tottenham?
Lamptey is a player that they're following, but it's not for January. So it's one of the names that I will keep an eye for summer, but for January, no, I don't see this move happening. Or if something surprising is not going to happen. Kostic, there is interest from Inter, so I think it's not going to be an easy one. And then he's playing on the left, and I'm told that on the left they are super, super happy with Sergio Reguilon. Antonio Conte also, before he joined Tottenham, was 100% sure that he will be one of the best left backs in Europe. So this is the expectation.
Now, just going back to central defenders, I know you mentioned that was an area that we have been looking at. Lots of names have been linked. De Vrij, De Ligt, Romagnoli, Skriniar, all names that have been linked. How likely do you think that Spurs, how possible do you think it is that Spurs might get a central defender this month? And kind of, what are the names that Spurs might look to target?
I don't see this kind of name, to be honest. I think to sign De Ligt in January is impossible. To sign Skriniar in January is impossible. To sign De Vrij in January is impossible. To sign Romagnoli too, because he's out of contract with AC Milan, but they don't want to lose the player in January because they also have Simon Kjær injury till the end of the season, so they can't lose him. It's only Fikayo Tomori and Romagnoli for AC Milan. So I think it's not going to be this kind of names. We have a lot of fake rumors around Tottenham. I think for centre-back will be something different, will be an opportunity. I think that the kind of name I think is going to be impossible or close to be impossible in January, but kind of deal will be like Pau Torres. You remember that Pau Torres was a name that they were working for, was absolutely under the radar, and they will go for something like this from clubs that are important clubs, but maybe open to sell in January, for a player with this kind of skills. And keep an eye on Pau Torres maybe for the summer, because Fabio Paratici really wanted him. Tottenham made a big proposal for him. So maybe for the summer could be an opportunity if Tottenham will have Champions League football. Okay,
we've heard reports, again, Fab, that Spurs are looking at that central midfield as an option. Conte would like to bring a central midfielder in. Just going to throw some names at you in and around that kind of position. Christian Eriksen, Weston McKennie, Matthias Svanberg, any of those names of an interest to Tottenham this window, as far as you're aware?
For Svanberg is a player they're following. Fabio Paratici was following him already at Juventus, but is not a priority at the moment for January, also because he's key player for Bologna. McKennie, they wanted a loan deal in the summer, and Juventus are not accepting a loan deal in January. So I think for McKennie or Kulusevski, it has to be a permanent one. And so maybe to try a swap deal with Juventus. But it's not easy because of the value of those players. Juventus want around 30-35 million for McKennie and 30-35 for Kulusevski. And the other name you mentioned to me, I don't remember, sorry.
Matthias Svanberg.
No, I told you about Svanberg. I think it was another one.
Frank Kessie will be another.
Frank Kessie.
Frank Kessie is one for the summer. It's one for the summer. Not for January, because he's not leaving AC Milan in January. I can guarantee to you. But for summer, as free agent, could be an opportunity for Tottenham. Not only for Tottenham, but I will keep an eye on Tottenham.
Okay. DJ?
Just two other names that might potentially leave the club this summer: Tongi and Ndombele and Dele Alli. Kind of, what do you expect their chances of leaving the club this month? Do you think there are two players that might leave?
I think for Ndombele there are huge chances. Then let's see if they can find an opportunity, because also during the summer they wanted to sell him, but they were not able to find the right club. And for Dele Alli, I'm not 100% sure yet that he's leaving, but I would say that he has possibilities to leave. Yes, it's not a priority, like they're desperate to sell Dele Alli, but it's a possibility if they find a good opportunity, maybe a swap deal.
Wingers, Fab, Osman Dembele, Dejan Kulikevsky, I pronounce that right. Any interest in those two?
For Dembele, I think it's going to be something interesting maybe for the summer as free agent, more than January for Tottenham. Kulusevski, is true that they have interest. Fabio Paratici signed this boy for Juventus, and Antonio Conte wanted him when he was at Inter. It was Inter versus Juventus to sign this boy, and Juventus signed him. Now it's a possibility that Tottenham are considering. It's true that they're following the situation and they had contacts with his agent. It's true. But it's also true that Juventus, as I mentioned before, they're asking for 35 million. So it's not easy. It's about to find the opportunity. This is why it's taking long for Tottenham transfer window.
Just another name that's been linked as well, Dusan Vlahovic, Fiorentina. No, Arsenal kind of been strongly linked with the move for him today. What's kind of the situation with Vlahovic? Will he leave now? Will he leave in the summer?
It's true that Arsenal want him. He's not new, but at the same point, also Tottenham want him. But the point is that the player is still open to stay at Fiorentina for 6 months and then leave in the summer. In the summer will be a big race for Vlahovic. So to change his mind at this point is only about maybe changing his agent. It's the only one. If he's not changing his agent, I don't see him changing club in January. For Tottenham, it's true that they're absolutely following Dusan Vlahovic situation for the summer. Absolutely. They will be in the race.
Okay, we're just conscious of time. I'm going to pass over the Jammies to throw some names at you, Fab, and then like I say, we're going to ask you one final thing. Joe, back to you.
So I mean, names that Spurs have been linked with: Clement Longley from Barcelona, Nikola Milenkovic, Lorenzo Insigne. Of course, he's gone somewhere else. Nicola Barella, Isco, or Antoine Griezmann. Are any of those names that might be?
Griezmann, fake news. Barella is not leaving the club. Milenkovic is a player they wanted in the summer. It was in the list. I still remember that they had a plan for Romero, plan A, and plan B was to sign maybe 2 players between Tomiyasu, Milenkovic, and Zuma. This was the plan. Then they decided to go for Romero. And so Milenkovic could be a possibility, but I think we're talking about summer, because Fiorentina are not letting them leave in January. It's going to be difficult. But it's a name I will keep an eye on, because Fabio Paratici is following him since a long time. So on the names you mentioned, I would say Milenkovic is the most.
Okay, and if Adama does come in, does that mean Bergwijn might be on his way out, Fab?
Yes.
I can just squeeze that in.
Yes.
Bergwijn potentially. Is that regardless whether Adama comes in or not? You think Bergwijn will leave this window, or is it dependent?
If they sign a new winger, he's leaving. If they don't, maybe he could stay. But if they sign a new winger, he's leaving. Ajax are interested. Sevilla are interested too. Let's see what happens.
Okay, Joe, over to you to close it.
And just a final question: how many times do you think we'll get to hear "Here we go" this month for Spurs?
I think maybe two or three. It depends on outgoings.
We'll take that.
Fab, you're an absolute star. Glad to see you back on your feet.
Thank you, guys.
I'm sure we'll have you back on before the end of this January transfer window.
Great.
Keep safe, keep well. Guys, there you go. The wonderful Fabrizio Romano, as always. Keep tuning in to Last Word on Spurs. Plenty more transfer content to come your way. And as always, come on you Spurs.